สวัสดีค่ะมาทานส้มตำข้าวเหนียวคอหมูย่างกับไข่ทอดไข่เจียวใส่หอมใหญ่ใส่เห็ดแล้วก็ใส่ต้นหอมแล้วก็ใส่หอมแดงส้มตำค่ะแต่เหลือจากเมื่อวานน่ะกับข้าวเมื่อวานทำส้มตำนึ่งข้าวเหนียวคอหมูย่างไข่ทอดไข่เจียวมาทานข้าวกลางวันด้วยกันค่ะตอนนี้เที่ยงที่แคนาดาค่ะเวลา 12:24 นาฬิกาค่ะเที่ยง24 นาทีมาจ้ากินข้าวเหนียวส้มตำกันนี่ยายนึ่งข้าวเหนียวเมื่อวานไม่ใช่คนอีสานนะแต่ชอบกินข้าวเหนียวไม่ชอบมากเลยมันอร่อยอันนี้ส้มตำนี่ไม่ใช่มะละกอนะยายไม่ใช่มะละกอที่นี่เหนียวไม่อร่อยไม่เหมือนบ้านเรายายใช้โคโลบี้อย่างสีขาวนะอร่อยแล้วก็ไม่เหม็นกลิ่นไม่แรงถ้าอย่างสีแดงกลิ่นแรงอันนี้อร่อยใส่มะเขือเทศแล้วก็ใส่ถั่วลันเตานะถั่วฝักยาวก็มีแต่มันแข็งไม่อร่อยไม่เหมือนถั่วฝักยาวบ้านเราไม่กรอบอันนี้ถั่วลันเตาหวานอร่อยมาทานด้วยกันอันนี้คอหมูย่างเนี่ยคอหมูย่างแฟนกินใหญ่เลยบอกอร่อยทำให้กินบ่อยนะแต่ไม่ได้ลงวิดีโอเนี่ยคอหมูย่างอาหารไทยสามีกินทุกอย่างแต่ไม่กินเผ็ดกินไม่ได้เลยกินแล้วเขาจะปวดท้องไม่เป็นปัญหาเพราะเขาไม่เคยกินเผ็ดอาหารไทยกินทุกอย่าง
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister will be moving closure on C5. The House has been sitting just for 3 weeks, and already he wants to steamroll a bill through the House, and not just any bill. C5 would give the Prime Minister the power to...
ยายทำกับข้าวนะยายจะทำรสชาติคงความเป็นไทยไม่เอาใจฝรั่งนะขอบอกเพราะเราเป็นคนไทยรสชาติจัดจ้านเหมือนคนไทยเราเลยแต่ถ้าทำให้ลูกมีลูกบางคนกินเผ็ดมากเหมือนคนไทยบางคนกินเผ็ดน้อยแล้วก็อีกคนไม่กินเผ็ดแต่รสชาติคงความเป็นไทยเอกลักษณ์ของคนไทยไม่เอาใจฝรั่งนะเขาบอกเรื่องรสชาติกับข้าวฉันต้องเอารสชาติของฉันคงความเป็นไทยเอกลักษณ์ของความเป็นไทยไว้ยายบางคนชอบกินข้าวเหนียว
C5 raises major debates about the environment and Quebec's sovereignty over its own territory. If there's any bill that just thoroughly, it's this one. The Prime Minister has no right to impose C5 under closure when the bill gives him exceptional powers unlike anything we've seen before. Is that the Prime Minister's intention to bypass Parliament and combine like Donald Trump? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
กรอบอร่อยเหมือนมะละกอบ้านเรามะละกอที่นี่ไม่อร่อยเหนียวบางทีขมด้วยยังไม่กินซื้อมาหลายครั้งแล้วก็ยังเหมือนเดิมมาจากเม็กซิโกอร่อย
break down barriers between provinces and create one Canadian economy.
มาข้าวเหนียวจ้า
In a democratic way, Mr. Speaker.
กันค่ะ
Mr. Speaker, the 44 Liberals from Quebec all voted yesterday to steal $814 million from Quebecers. The Liberals from Quebec have voted to make Quebecers pay for election gifts for Canadians. The Liberals from Quebec voted
ยาย
against
ก็จะ
the
เผื่อ
unanimous request
ถ้าทำอาหารเย็นใช่ไหมยายก็จะทำเผื่อไว้ตอนกลางวันที่นี่เลย
who were afraid that the Conservatives would take us back to the Stone Age, abolish the carbon
โรงพยาบาลเราไม่ต้องมานั่งทำบางทีก็ไม่เผื่อเรามีเมนูของเราแล้วกลางวันเราจะทำอะไรอะไรอย่างเงี้ยเราก็ไม่เผื่อ
The Honourable Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind my colleague with respect that we still have a carbon price in Canada for big polluters, for major emitters, and that reduces 3 times the number of emissions as the consumer carbon price. It's a strong carbon pricing system.
เดี๋ยววันเสาร์เนี่ยยายไม่ทำกับข้าวนะจ๊ะมันเป็นวันครบรอบแต่งงานของยายจองโต๊ะอาหารที่ร้านอาหารก็ได้เยอะฉลองสามียายนะจะให้วันสำคัญคือวันเกิดกับวันครบรอบแต่งงานมากที่สุดครอบครัวยายนะครอบครัวคนอื่นยายไม่รู้นะคะครอบครัวยายจะเป็น
Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the Auditor General for her report. We've already acted on previous recommendations.
ก็จะซื้อของฝันให้ทุกปีครบรอบแต่งงาน
We've referred cases to the RCMP because we will never tolerate bad behavior from our suppliers or their contractors. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You've been watching the first round of question period, and so
วัน
has
คริสต์มาสอีก
Lydia's Stefanovic all
คริสต์มาส
with us from Ottawa. What's a key takeaway for you, Lydia?
แต่ปีนี้ไม่อยู่คริสต์มาสที่นี่จะไปปีใหม่กับลูกที่เมืองไทยจะไปก่อนสามีเดินทางที่หลัง
leading off question period. In particular, I've noticed that we are seeing more conservative women lead question period than we have maybe before in the past couple of months even. And today we heard from Ontario MP Leslyn Lewis, who led question period for the Conservatives. Of course, she was a former Conservative leadership candidate, and she continues to question the Liberal government over GC Strategies, that IT firm that created the ArriveCan app. Now, this is an app that's still actually in use by the federal government for travel documents and customs claims, but it generated so much controversy with its inception, which was used during the COVID-19 pandemic for travelers who were flying back then. And that's because this IT firm received dozens of contracts from the federal government worth approximately $100 million. The company received and was paid
ขอโทษนะเช็ดจมูกอยากให้
more than
เพื่อน
$60
ๆ
million from the federal government for that matter. And the Auditor General has come out with scathing reviews about this IT firm. It's not the first time that we've heard from her on this, but most recently
ปี
we
นี้
have heard that
ยายจะกลับเมืองไทยไว
received
กับเดือนธันวา
for money from this IT
ทุก
firm
ปีจะกลับมก
and
รา
the founders behind it who were
ปีนี้
brought
เรา
into
ไม่
the
อยู่
Commons to actually
คริส
be
ต์มาสที่นี่
criticized by the Speaker of the House of Commons not too long ago. Now, the Conservatives have a motion before the House of Commons in which they're calling on the Liberals to enforce a lifetime ban against GC Strategies, any firms that may be created in the future by the founders and by the founders themselves. The federal government, we heard responding there by ministers who say they've already acted on some of the Auditor General's recommendations. They've implemented a ban. They're barring GC Strategies from bidding on any federal contracts for 7 years, but that doesn't go quite as far as the Conservatives are calling on the government to do. So you can expect this to continue to come up. And as well, Andrew, the Conservatives are calling on the Liberals to distribute more than $60 million that was given to the founders of this IT firm.
Olivia, thank you. The CBC's Olivia Stefanovic Emirates Live in Ottawa. Coming up, continuing coverage of the tragedy in India. An Air India Boeing 787 crashed shortly after takeoff in Ahmedabad in western India. We know one Canadian was among the 242 people on board. CBC News has confirmed her identity and will tell you what we've learned. This is CBC News Network.
Hi, Phil Swift here for FlexCall. It's so easy to use. Just push the trigger for a perfect feed.
ยายทำเป็นทุกอย่างกับข้าวเพราะเคยเป็นลูกมือแม่เคยเปิดร้านอาหารตามสั่งกับข้าวแกง
It even works
ตอนหลังที่แม่ไม่เลิกขัดพระแล้ว
fully paintable.
เลิกทำงานโรงงานหล่อพระ
Lasts for years. And with our snap and save cap, there's no waste. Best part? You don't need a caulking gun. Get FlexCall.
100 years. It's a story written by Canadians. And at the 100 Years in Canada event, we're honoring our deep roots with
เรา
employee
ไม่ได้เกิดมาเป็นลูกคนรวยนะเราก็ต้องดิ้นรนทำมาหากิน
You pay what we pay
พ่อแม่สอนให้เราทำมาหากิน
the 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee
แต่ลูกพ่อกับแม่ได้ดีทุกคน
pricing on the trail
ขยันทำมาหากิน
compass. Because for 100 years, you didn't just ride along, you drove us.
Kids these days, people say we have so much more, like more developmental challenges. Shield has a plan to transform care for children with complex medical needs. Join us. Kids these days, we need you more than ever. Kids these days, people say we have so much more, like more need for life-saving procedures. Shield has a plan to transform surgical care for kids. Join us. Kids these days, we need you more than ever.
Explore the world the Viking way. From the quiet comfort of elegant small ships with no children and no casinos. We actually have reinvented ocean voyages, designing all-inclusive experiences for the thinking person. Viking, voted world's best by both Travel and Leisure and Condé Nast Traveler. Learn more at viking.com.
This is the story of Gavin, an amateur topiarist who became such a viral sensation that he changed careers and never looked back. Another decision he didn't second guess, getting
Rồi
named
đó.
with Cover Me health and
Ủa,
dental
kho cày
insurance.
kiểu.
Prescription allergy pills? Covered.
ส้มต
Therapy after a
ำ
tough
ส้ม
day
ตำเหลือจากเมื่อวานนี้หน่อยหนึ่ง
With comprehensive
Get away.
coverage from Manulife Cover Me, you can get on with whatever life looks like. Call 1-877-COVER-ME or visit coverme.com to get a quote today.
ใส่ตู้เย็นเอาไว้ไม่มีเสียนี่
Are crowding around the city's main hospital, waiting to find out if their relatives are among the hundreds of victims of the Air India plane crash today. A flight headed to London went down in a residential area just moments after takeoff. The cause of the crash is still unclear. There were 242 people on board, including a Canadian. Local police have pulled at least 204 bodies from the site of the crash. More people remain unaccounted for. For more on what may have caused the crash, I'm going to bring in David McNair. He's a former pilot and aviation safety investigator with the Transportation Safety Board of Canada. And David, appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Thank you. What stood out to you when looking at the footage of this crash?
Well, there are two videos put out so far. The first one this morning, and one of the things that seemed to occur to myself and other pilots, we're not sure about the flap configuration, which is whether the flaps are in the proper position for takeoff. It's a bit difficult to tell from the clarity of the video, but certainly as investigators, one of the first things I'll be looking at when I'm looking at videos right now on the recorder or perhaps other videos. The second video came out and shows the airplane flying up only about 200 feet above the runway. All of this points out to, again, a type of performance investigation, where you want to find out whether all the things that contribute to good performance are working. Engines, configuration, those kind of things, runway calculations, all those things are obviously top of the list for investigators, I would say, at least if I was investigating.
So what you're pointing out, does that point you in the direction of a mechanical failure, a software issue, or even pilot error, operator error?
Well, you mentioned all three possibilities, and what you're going to look at, first of all, find out exactly what happened, and then you can make some good hypotheses as to some of the possible reasons. If in fact the flaps were not extended, a few possibilities of what it would be. One, they were not selected for takeoff, which the second video kind of indicates, but again, we're not clear. And whether all the flaps went down, because there are the flaps on the leading edge of the wing and flaps on the trailing edge. Again, all these things would be required to be looked at with the flight data recorder or other photo evidence as it comes up. These systems also operate in hydraulic system, whether they're working or not, and of course the pilot action, what they were faced with, what emergency warnings they had in the cockpit. All these things will be part of your investigation. So these are the kind of things to look at. But you want to find out exactly what happened and then make some good hypotheses and check the evidence to find out whether or not these are true.
What about the aircraft itself? Is there anything in the history of the Boeing 787 that would suggest what the cause of this kind of error would be?
I would say no, because the airplane is the first hull loss of the airplane, as far as I know, as far as I'm told, and I've never seen any sort of other occurrences related to this type of thing, of performance on takeoff. You see the other lots of airplanes, and you see it, not necessarily accidents, but where you have performance difficulties, and quite often related to the performance calculations or the performance of the engines. But in any case, these are all things that I've never seen anything related to the 787
บ้านเรานะเนี่ยข้าวเหนียวบ้านเรา ที่มาจากเมืองไทย
and the lack of takeoff performance. But certainly we've never had an accident prior.
There hasn't been an accident prior. I just wonder about, like, this is a huge plane, right? It's big, it's wide, it's heavy. Do any of those factors come to mind?
Well, I mean, when you're flying a big heavy airplane, performance calculations are very critical. You make sure your flaps are down and in a proper takeoff position, and also your power is the way it's supposed to be. It's not the same size as the A330 used by the Prime Minister. It's not that, not massively huge. It's large for sure, and requires some special attention to it to make sure you do things right, like any airplane, really.
What are the immediate next steps investigators will be taking?
Well, first of all, I hope that the flight recorder survives. It likely did. Looks like the tail is intact, and that's where the flight recorders are. And there'll be very careful analysis of the flight recorder data, particularly in the configuration, the engine performance, and all those kind of things. And they'll be very paramount. And of course, the cockpit voice recorder, what people pilots were saying to each other, what sort of indications in the cockpit that they may have faced, what were their actions. All these things will be very important. So the flight recorders take on vast importance. Other things, like for example, if there is question about the flaps position, they can be measured, but that takes a while. Like we're looking at weeks of measuring actuators and other technical things, and it looks like the aircraft is kind of a mess, so that would take a while. That's still going to work if the flight recorder doesn't work.
David, thank you. David McNair is a former aviation safety investigator with the Transportation Safety Board in Canada.
I'm a simple man, but now that I'm in my 50s, sometimes I feel like I don't have a lot of choices. But one thing I can choose is how to look after my family if anything happens to me.
Welcome to Senior's Choice, the #1 direct choice for Canadians over 50. How can I help?
I'd like a quick quote, please.
If you're a Canadian resident aged 50 to 80, you can choose the right amount of coverage for you and your family up to $250,000.
Wow, that kind of money would make a real difference.
You can choose to apply over the phone now in just a few minutes with no medicals or blood tests needed, only a few health and lifestyle questions.
Okay, that's great.
Depending on the coverage you choose, it could be as little as $17.02 a month. That's just 56 cents.